So as we edge ever closer to this next championship season, the rumour mill is hotting up. We've had several deals go through over the past few days, all of which will be discussed in today's video, as well as all of the recent transfer speculation going on around the championship. As always, if you're going to enjoy, make sure to leave a like and do stick around and subscribe for some regular championship content. But without any further ado, let's hop into the done deals. And we mentioned this one last time, but Martin Peiro has since completed his season-long loan move back to Argentina, this time to Boca Juniors. Ultimately, there is an air of disappointment about this one because of all the promise that a player like Peiro brought with him to Middlesbrough, the amount of money they actually outlaid on him, ultimately for him to have only gone on to play 564 minutes of championship football last season for Borough. It didn't seem like a great fit, injury circumstance, him and Warnock at the start of the season, but I have to admit I am a little bit disappointed that this one hasn't worked out. Sheffield United have once again bolstered their defensive unit by adding Kieran Clark on a season-long loan coming over from Newcastle United. Kieran Clark spent the vast majority of his career in the Premier League, actually only had one season outside of the Premier League. That was with Newcastle in the 16-17 season as they went on to win the league. So yeah, another solid addition for Sheffield United there. Kyle Hudlin joins Huddersfield Town's B team. We probably won't be seeing him in the Championship immediately, but oh my god, does this guy look like an absolute unit. And we've seen Huddersfield snapping up Jack Rodoni. He's coming over from AFC Wimbledon. We did speak about this transfer rumour last time, and this one has since been confirmed. I quite like this deal, to be honest. Like I said at the time, he's only 21 years old, had a brilliant season with Wimbledon in League One last season. 12 goals, 5 assists. Looks like a player who Huddersfield will look to develop over these next few years. And Sunderland have completed the deal for West Ham youngster Adjia Lees. This one looks like a really savvy bit of business. Sunderland so far in this transfer market going a little bit under the radar, picking up deals here and there, but I quite like the look of this one, to be honest. 21-year-old, good ball playing centre half by all accounts. Alex Neil clearly wants a young group of players, a young hungry group to go ahead and work with. That was certainly the blueprint for Alex Neil during his first year at Preston, and that worked brilliantly for us. Reading completed the signing of Shane Long. This one had been long rumoured, but they have since got this deal over the line. Now, while Shane Long is, no doubt no longer in his prime, as he was previously when he was last in a Reading shirt, he will add that little bit of graft to the final third and be a player who they look towards to link the play. We saw Coventry complete the loan signing of Jonathan Panzo coming over from Nottingham Forest. We only got to see a brief sort of glimpse of Panzo in the Championship last season. He signed for Forest in the January window, but prior to that looked like a pretty good up-and-coming player in France, so I'm very much looking forward to seeing what Coventry can get out of him. They've tended to have a pretty good hit-to-miss ratio with loan players. Manchester City youngster Callum Doyle has been snapped up by Coventry City on loan for the season. Spent last season out on loan at Sunderland in League One, where he played 44 matches across all competitions, so got plenty of football under his belt last season. We'll be looking for that next stage of his development now at Coventry. And we have a confirmation of Keane Lewis-Potter leaving Hull to go to Brentford in a club record deal. I am a little bit sad to see Keane Lewis-Potter leaving the Championship. I thought he was absolute lightning in the bottle last season for Hull City. From the off, that opening day of the season, Hull absolutely battered Preston on the opening day. I thought that Lewis-Potter would be an absolute star, and he went on really from strength to strength. In the end, Hull couldn't have really turned down the sort of money that Brentford were offering, in and around the region of 20 million. But it does leave them in a little bit of a predicament, because I'm not quite sure how strong Hull are at this point in time going into next season, because they've undoubtedly strengthened several other positions, but they're also losing by far and away their best player from last season. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what he can do instantly in the Premier League for a side like Brentford, who obviously have a great track record with bringing up youngsters. There's no doubt he'll be sorely missed from that Hull side next season though. But speaking of an incoming for Hull City, they have completed the deal for Oscar Estupinan. He's coming in from the Portuguese Primeira Liga, where, to be honest, he's coming off the back of a really good season. 15 goals in the top division in Portugal, looks to be a real aerial threat and a bit of a penalty box striker. The Colombian forward, who's 25 years old, has signed a 3-year deal with Hull, and I've got to admit, looks like a really tidy bit of business. This one was to be expected, and we have seen Nathan Collins make his move to Wolves for a fee in the region of £20 million. Disappointingly so, I thought he would have been an absolute titan at the back for Burnley in the Championship, but understandably so, there was always going to be a little bit of Premier League interest in Collins, and as soon as the bidding starts to get around that 20 million mark, I think that Burnley's hand was probably forced in that aspect, albeit it is going to be money that can be reinvested elsewhere. We've seen Watford complete the signing of Barcelona forward Ray Minaj. Now, I'm really not all too sure what to make of this transfer. Seems to be a little bit of a high risk versus high reward one, this one really, but he certainly played at some high profile clubs throughout his career. You know, he's been at Inter Milan, Barcelona, spent last season playing in Italy in the Serie A where he scored 5 goals. Certainly an interesting profile of player, very interested to see how he gets on at Watford. And we've also seen Burnley snapping up Josh Cullen, him coming over from Anderlecht. We did speak about this one in the previous transfer rumour roundup video, but it has been since confirmed. Burnley really been quite savvy, I'd say, with the way they've gone about their business. Josh Cullen, obviously no stranger to the Championship. We saw him have that terrific loan spell with Charlton a few years ago. Yeah, with the business they've done over these last few weeks, I think their midfield options have certainly gone up a level. Bristol City are certainly no strangers to bringing in young French players, and Stefan Bajic has been the latest player of that trend. The goalkeeper comes in to Ashton Gate, signing on a 3-year deal. Only 20 years old. Be interesting to see what the immediate plan is now with O'Leary and Bentley as well, as they've got 3 goalkeepers there now to go ahead and fight it out whether or not one of them will go out on loan. But those are all the deals which have gone through in the last few days in the Championship. Now, without any further ado, let's hop into the rumours. We've got several Championship clubs who are interested in Liverpool's Ben Davies at this point in time. More than likely, this will be another loan move out to the Championship. The likes of Blackburn Rovers, Middlesbrough and Stoke City have all been mentioned in conversations for the Liverpool defender. Now, honestly, I think Ben Davies will do a superb job wherever he ends up. He had that loan move last season out to Sheffield United, where I thought he looked pretty good, to be honest. Obviously was interrupted with injuries and things like that, but consistently, if you get him playing, I think he's one of the best centre halves in the Championship for his specific skill set in terms of being the defender who's comfortable on the ball, can ping a pass and bring it out. Very clever as well, quite a technical defender. The only thing that really lets him down, I suppose, are those aerial duels at time. But yeah, if Blackburn especially got a deal over the line for Ben Davies for the season, I would be ridiculously jealous, because for me, in my time supporting Preston North End, I'd put him right up there in terms of one of the best defenders I've ever seen in a North End shirt, and I think he'd be a instant upgrade over Darragh Lenihan, who's of course departed this summer. Adam Armstrong continues to be linked with a move back to the Championship on a loan deal for this season. We've already seen Middlesbrough being heavily linked with the Southampton striker, and QPR being the latest link to Armstrong as well. I'd be surprised if QPR managed to pull that one off, but we still have to wait and see what the future holds for Armstrong and whether he does have a future at Southampton. What does the future hold for Millwall's Danny McNamara? They've already knocked back a couple bids from QPR, reportedly so. The second bid was around about the region of 300 grand, which of course Millwall are always going to go ahead and turn down that sort of money. They are said to be in talks with him over a new deal. I believe he's got a couple of years left to run on his current contract at Millwall, and understandably so, they'll be looking to tie him down to a long-term contract. He's a player who's clearly in demand at the moment. That's seen by the QPR interest, and had a brilliant season. I thought last season with Millwall, really came on last time around, 2 goals, 2 assists. And at only 23 years old as well, I think has a really high ceiling for that potential. Now we could see Burnley continuing to ramp up their transfer business with a potential departure of Cornet, who's been linked with a move to Everton at this point in time. You'd imagine that if that deal does go through, Burnley then have even further funds to go ahead and inject into the rest of the squad. It would be brilliant to see him sticking around in the Championship, but I think that Burnley fans knew that it was probably going to be quite unlikely. And one transfer could lead to another, as Callum O'Hare is currently being heavily targeted by Burnley. It seems like this deal could go through as a knock-on effect of that Cornet deal, with Burnley looking to add a little bit more creativity into the final third. Now, I've always been a massive fan of Callum O'Hare. I think there have been question marks raised over him, and rightly so at times, in terms of his final product. I do think that's been something that he's been slowly improving on, but he still has a way to go before he is the final product. product in that sense. But in terms of his skill set, I think it's quite unique for the Championship actually, in terms of dribbling, key passes. In many ways, it's not just the hair. He does remind me of a young Jack Grealish. I think he'd be a brilliant option for Burnley as they continue their pursuit of refreshing their squad, albeit it'd be a massive loss to Coventry. And another player that Burnley are targeting at the moment is a potential loan deal for Liam Delap. Manchester City are said to be making up their minds on what they want to do with Delap over these next few days. Obviously, if we go back to last summer, Delap was being heavily linked with several Championship clubs. I'm sure there'll be plenty of interest if Manchester City do put him on the market for a loan deal. But maybe with that Vincent Kompany connection, Burnley could be in the driving seat for his signature. It also looks as if we could see some more movement coming out of Borough over these next few weeks. They've been linked to every Championship player under the sun recently, but in order to fund these transfers they needed to go ahead and first of all get Jed Spence off the books and get that money coming in. Reportedly so, the initial fee being around about that 12.5 million mark, with it raising up to around about 20 million with add-ons all included. I think that's what Middlesbrough were probably expecting to get from Spence. Obviously a player who clearly doesn't want to be at the club, but coming off the back of a terrific loan spell. I think he'll go on to do well at Spurs. Conte has a history of bringing on wing backs especially, and Middlesbrough can now move on from this and look to reinvest that money in the rest of the squad. Now at Coventry, Lewis Sibley has been spoken about in terms of a potential replacement should Callum O'Hare go out the door. Sibley's quite an interesting one. He had that first season with Derby where he burst onto the scene, looked absolutely electrifying, was fantastic. I think got that hat-trick against Millwall if I remember rightly, and from that point just hasn't quite kicked on like many of us might have thought he had. I still think there's a great player in there. He's only 22 years old. He clearly has a very high ceiling, but I think Coventry will be getting a very raw player as things stand with Sibley. Jay Fulton at Swansea, going off his minutes last season, doesn't appear to be in Russell Martin's plans for the future with Swansea, and so Reading have since been linked with the move for the Scottish midfielder. He had those couple of seasons under Cooper especially where I thought he was absolutely brilliant for Swansea, really held things down in the middle with Matt Grimes, but looks as if he could be moved on this summer. Now the link to Reading is interesting because that would suggest that this one would be a loan move, as obviously Reading can only deal with free transfers or loans as things stand under their embargo. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see if this is a case of Swansea willing to let Fulton go because they have a replacement already in mind. Now Sheffield United fans will know all about Rudi Kadra from his loan spell at Blackburn Rovers last season. A couple of brilliant performances against the Blades for Blackburn Rovers, and going off recent reports it seems as if Sheffield United may have landed a deal for the Brighton youngster. Really excited about this one. We were mentioning with Sheffield United before that they were a little bit slow to get going with their business, but now things do start to be picking up. I'm quite optimistic about their chances, especially if they do pull this deal off. And it seems as if Jamie Shackleton could be on his way to Millwall on loan for this season. Millwall and Leeds doing quite a link-up recently in terms of the players that are heading there. But Shackleton, I think, will be quite a nice addition, actually, to this Millwall side. Really versatile player. That's just the sort of player that Gary Rowett likes. And at this point in Shackleton's career, I think he himself wants to be playing regular first-team football. He's got 2 years left on his current deal with Leeds United, and this is a little bit of a make-or-break loan move for him, really. If he absolutely smashes it in the Championship, then I'm sure he's got a massive future there with Leeds. If not, they may explore other options. Last season for Leeds in the Premier League, he started 7 matches, also had 7 appearances off the bench, but at 22 years old, he wants to be playing week in, week out, doesn't he? And it seems as if West Brom might be getting a deal over the line for Yokoshlu on a free transfer. This one, a brilliant bit of business by West Brom. They had him in the Premier League and he was one of those players who we didn't expect West Brom to be able to get back for their Championship campaign. But the fact they could be getting him back for this next upcoming season, I think is absolutely massive news for West Brom. There's been a lot of focus on the attackers coming in at West Brom, but one red flag I probably did have over this Baggies side was their midfield and depth in that area. But bringing in a player as good as Yokoshlu in, you know, that season they had in the Premier League, he was one of their standout players. For the Championship, you'd think he'd be an absolute Rolls Royce. Brilliant potential signing this one. And it wouldn't be a Championship transfer rumour roundup series without someone from the Brazilian League being linked to the Championship at some point, and we finally got that with Gabriel Sara, who's been linked with the move to Norwich City for a potential club record fee. You know, over £11 million is currently being talked about as a potential fee for the attacking midfielder. I've watched a few compilations of of him on YouTube, and I mean, I'd be absolutely buzzing for a player of his quality to be joining the Championship. We never quite know players coming over from South America, how they'll make that adaptation. Obviously, we had this same thing with Martin Pero at Middlesbrough last season. You know, we all got massively excited about that, all the money Middlesbrough spent on him. In the end, it didn't work out whatsoever. But to be fair to Norwich, they have quite a track record with bringing players over from South America, and I'd be all over this, I have to admit. But guys, there we have it. That will wrap it up for today's video and for the Championship transfer rumour roundup. As always, if you did go on to enjoy, make sure to leave a like, and do get in the comments down below with any other transfer rumours and done deals that you've seen go through in the past few days. Thanks for watching though, guys, and I'll see you all in the next one.